to him and see how it affects you differently. I see this guy as probably having grown up in a privileged household, got a great Ivy League education, and so he's a little bit sheltered from you and me. A little bit sheltered. But the stuff he says is legit, I promise you, or I wouldn't be playing it unless I was playing it to attack it. But I'm not. So let's listen.
Right now, standing on this stage, by speaking these words, I'm changing your brain. And I know, it sounds like a superpower. But you have it too. You're changing my brain just by being here. Now, it all hinges on the single most important thing that I've ever learned as a clinical neuroscientist. And here it is. Experience changes the brain. Your brain is exquisitely designed to respond, to adapt to every experience you'll ever have. Every thought, emotion, action, perception, all of it leaves an impact on your brain. This simple insight can completely reshape our intuitions about mental illness and about chemical imbalance. And at the same time, it yields some simple and elegant life hacks any of us can use to enhance brain function. So let's see how this works. Today, we're all gathered to bask in the warm glow of TED. Unfortunately, our bodies, your bodies, will spend most of this time just sitting. And that's a problem. Because, as you might have heard, sitting is the smoking of our generation. Physical inactivity, it doesn't just take a toll on our hearts, our lungs, and yes, our fat cells. It also takes a toll on the brain. Now, when we're physically active, key circuits, they use neurotransmitters like dopamine and glutamate and serotonin. They start to light up in pathways scattered throughout the brain, enhancing energy and mood and motivation. It's one of the major reasons why exercise is proving to be a potent antidepressant. So, 2 landmark clinical trials at Duke University. Researchers had the audacity to test exercise head-to-head against Zoloft. They found 30 minutes of brisk walking just 3 times a week was every bit as effective as the medication in fighting clinical depression. 30 minutes, brisk walking, 3 times a week.
Oh, hell to the no. Now I got to interrupt you here. Have you ever met somebody with no legs? Right. So you see where I'm going with this, do you? Let's keep.
And then when the researchers revisited those same patients 1 year later, they found the patients who had kept on exercising, those were the ones that were most likely to stay well. They didn't see any similar protective benefit of just staying on medication. Turns out exercise also enhances our cognitive function. It improves memory and attention, mental clarity. It even helps keep your brain young by triggering the growth of new brain cells. So let me put it simply. Exercise, it's medicine. And I mean that quite literally. It enhances brain function as powerfully as any medication. And trust me, if Big Pharma could somehow capture the neurochemical benefit of exercise, can you see it? Put it in a pill, and then sell it to you, they would do it in a heartbeat. And then they would finally have a blockbuster drug completely free of any difficult side effects, like weight loss or weight gain, sedation, emotional blunting, loss of libido. Okay, let's take another example. This one's maybe more risky. Instead of sitting here in this darkened auditorium, what if you were to get up, walk outside, bask in sunlight? The instant you stepped outside, specialized receptors in your retina, in the back of the eye, they would kick off an avalanche of neurological activity. These receptors have a broadband connection to body clock circuitry buried deep inside the brain. These are circuits that regulate your sleep and appetite and arousal and hormone levels. And for millions of Americans and Europeans every winter, when the days turn cold and bleak and short, at least here in Kansas, sunlight deprivation causes all hell to break loose in the brain. And the result is an episode of debilitating, painful, seasonal affective disorder. It's been discovered up to 30% of us will have some symptoms every winter. And any one of us...
Now, we're not talking about winter right now, but that doesn't matter. I got to tell you a little story about this. Seasonal affective disorder. Okay, there's a few things he's not telling you here that I'm going to tell you. First of all, a great many of our ancestors lived just fine, missing sunlight in the winter months, in the areas that got less sunlight. I was up in Fairbanks, Alaska, in the Air Force for 2 years. And 1 year when I was there, the deadliest year that I think had ever happened for a base that size, we had 8 suicides. And we only had maybe 1,500 or 2,000 people on the base, I think. And, you know, Fairbanks only has, then it had about 30,000 people. It's got about 32,000 now. I mean, this is a place that's 5 times the state of Texas in size and doesn't even have the population of one big Texas city. So, yeah, not a lot of human contact. I mean, yeah, they conglomerate, they gather. But we had 8 suicides just with base personnel. There is very real brain chemistry that gets altered when you are forced to not get any sunlight. And it's complex. There's vitamin D that's created in your body from sunlight, and there's a great many other things that happen. And we're just really starting to scratch the surface on this. Don't let these psychiatrists and these big pharma companies make you think they have depression figured out. One of the most popular depression medications out there has a disclaimer right at the front that says something like, science doesn't really know exactly what causes depression. Well, we know some things that do cause depression. That's not a question. We just don't know everything that causes it and what exactly varies it within a body until you add the medications, which we can then run trials on and see how they do. And if they're good studies, then you're going to get reliable results. But even those, you have to question the motivation on, big pharma wants to make money. They're going to keep pushing the medications. They actually calculate the lawsuit value of the side effects or the people that it doesn't work on. And so they have to be careful with their claims. But to me, when you look at the trials and the results, it's better than any kind of voodoo stuff, okay? And this guy making it sound like, and I left the comment on YouTube, like everything can be solved with a full spectrum light or a little exercise, that's misleading. In the severe cases, it can't be solved with a little bit of exercise. Forget about it. But I can tell you this, you can give somebody medication all day long. If they don't have some meaningful relationships in their life, whether it's friend, spouse, children, parents, somebody that they're close to that they talk to routinely and get FaceTime with, if they don't have at least some activity in their life, if they have debilitating medical conditions, and these things begin to pile up, and then you add in something like drugs or alcohol, they're gone. You might as well say goodbye to them now. Start working out the tombstone epitaph or whatever and get that ready, because they're gone. Now, there's very few people that can live through what I just described as a combination of problems. And if they do, they're going to be miserable. They're going to be absolutely fucking so low that you're not going to want to be around them. Because it's, Les Brown's a motivational speaker, and he tells you get away from these people. Well, that's a little selfish, because you might care about some of these people. But if you know somebody like this, something made. And they may have just had a lot of failure in their life, so they've given up, and it's just, I can tell you from personal experience that when you get a physical condition that's causing you pain all the time, it's fucking hard to be Mr. Cheerful. When you feel the equivalent of 20 hot knife blades sticking in your spine at once for 18 or 20 hours a day. Yeah, it's pretty hard. You can only fool yourself so much. So we have the very limited view of someone like a motivational speaker who leaves out all the clinical stuff. Then we have the limited view of these people that think exercise or a full spectrum light's going to save your life. All of this has to be taken in a combination, plus stuff like what I'm telling you about real life situations and scenarios, relationships, things like that. These things all have to be taken into consideration if you're having a problem so you can know how to get out of it. Now, somebody like Andrew, who's a tough guy, would say, snap out of it already. You're being a puss. Yeah, maybe he's right, but not so easy for a lot of people. They definitely feel like they're in a psychological cave, a prison that they cannot break out of on their own. They can't get the guard's attention to try to steal the key, or they have lost all will and energy to fight to get out of this hole. And although today's show topic is how to murder your old self, in a way it's talking about how to murder your present self if your present self isn't working. You know what I'm saying? I think you do. Let's keep it going. Let's see what else this guy has to say about
a drop in serotonin-based signaling anytime we're chronically sunlight deficient. Anytime we're chronically deprived of sunlight. So, if that happens to you, if that happens to me, what should we do about it? We could always try medication. After all, 1 out of every 5 Americans, right now, 1 in 5 Americans takes a psychiatric drug every single day. There's been a 300% increase in antidepressant use just in the last 20 years. And it raises a really interesting question. With all this medication, with this huge increase, why is it that there's been no corresponding decrease in the rate of depression in the last 20 years? Have you ever wondered that? How do we still have an epidemic of this illness? I believe the answer is straightforward. You and I were never designed for a sedentary, indoor, sleep-deprived, socially isolated, fast food-laden, frenetic pace of modern American life. Experience changes the brain, and our epidemic of depression, it's driven by an even greater epidemic of unhealthy experience. For the past 7 years, my clinical research group has been working to help depressed patients change the way they live, to get the exercise they need, to get the sunlight they need. And when that's not available, we do have a life hack, and you can see it. It's a therapeutic light box that simulates the effects of sunlight on the brain. Its effects, its benefits typically kick in within 5 to 7 days. Where medication, do you know how long? It often takes about 3 to 4 weeks before it starts to work. Now, what we eat also matters to the brain. Sugar. Turns out sugar lights up the brain's reward circuitry about as effectively as cocaine. And it's just about as addictive. Unfortunately, it also triggers the release of powerful inflammatory
hormones. Please check in at the front office. Barco, please check in at the front office.
Normal chemical signaling throughout the brain. And it's a huge problem because the average American now consumes 22 teaspoons worth of added sugar every single day. Most of us would do well to cut back and to cut way back. And then finally, what we think about also matters to the brain. Have you heard of rumination? It's the habit of dwelling on our negative thoughts repeatedly at length. It ramps up our brain's stress circuitry, and that in turn interferes with the whole process of memory consolidation. It's the big reason why memory tends to suffer whenever we're stressed and we get trapped inside our own heads. And the research shows we're most likely to ruminate whenever we're completely alone.